So far I've been utilizing a very open space, that is my garage, where I've had plenty of room to set up my background, my lighting equipment, my cameras, and all the necessary equipment that I need. I have lots of room, I can utilize the space in different ways, but I thought it might also be interesting to show a more confined space and how to make use of it. So we're here in the office room of my house. I have my edit bay over here, a drafting table, bookshelves, file cabinet. It's kind of confined and cramped. I can't get a lot of equipment in here, but fortunately I have a nice big open window that lets in a lot of natural light. And I happen to have another window over here that's not quite as big, but also lets in natural light. So already, right off the bat, I have two light points, essentially for free, that are giving me light in the room. So I can utilize these in this space and not have to have as much equipment in this confined area. So let's take a look at how I could potentially set up the space to film in. For this video, I thought I would shoot with a webcam to change it up a bit, but also because I'm in a more tight space, using a webcam will give me a wider field of view in a small space. So to do this, I've set up my tripod directly in front of where I'm going to be filming. I thought it would be nice to use the bookcase as a backdrop and use the drafting table as kind of my surface to film on. So I'm just going to place the webcam in here, and I happen to have a tripod that holds the webcam nicely. It nests right down in there, so I don't have to worry about it falling off. If you don't have a tripod, of course, that holds a webcam, then you can always just use gaff tape or electrical tape or some sort of tape to tape it on just to make sure it stays on there. The next thing I'm going to do is, well, plug it into my computer, like so, and by opening up the software that I have, it should recognize the webcam, hopefully. If I just do this, perfect. Now there we go. Now the webcam shot is up. So taking a look at this shot, I'm not really happy with it. Let's see, it's below the table. It's not really the shot that I want. So I'm going to need to do some adjusting, and in order to do that, all I need to do, I can use my computer as a monitor and just kind of position the webcam where I want it. So first of all, I don't want to see below the table surface, so I'm going to bring it up just a little bit, and that's pretty good. I don't want to see too much of the window because, again, using any kind of camera with automatic focus or automatic light balance is going to go for the brightest part and adjust the color or the light accordingly. So instead of having too much of the window in the shot, I want to show more of the bookcase, and I might even move this a little bit closer just so I don't see too much of the other thing. I can have a little bit of the window there, so that's pretty good. I can see the table, I can see my surface, and actually I'm going to switch this to video so that I get the right angle, because right now the shot is cropped. So that's actually what I need to see. So I'm going to move it back just so I'm on the edge of the table, and just like that. And that's pretty good. So let's see how that looks with me sitting in there. Okay, perfect. That looks really good. And if I wanted, if this was too much light spilling in, I could even close these shades a bit and have the curtains as, well, another texture in the shot. In this case, because of the giant window and all of the light coming in, you'll notice that I'm getting a lot of light on one side of my face, but not a lot on the other. Even having one window that's smaller than this and further away is not really going to be sufficient. So I'm going to need to add additional lighting, and for that I brought one of these 1x1 light panels, LED panels, to use. And I might point out that in using this, I'm using a diffusion filter that came with it, and these lights, as I mentioned, are daylight balanced, so they're going to match the daylight coming in from the window. but they can be a little bit intense, and so using a diffusion, and in this case it's a minus green filter that came with this, can help a lot. The minus green is just going to make sure that it's a more natural white daylight light. So daylight is 5600 Kelvin. Tungsten light, if you're using tungstens, are 3200 Kelvin. So you can see there's quite a difference in color temperature between 3200 for indoor tungsten light and 5600 Kelvin for daylight. So it's important to keep that in mind if I'm going to be using tungsten lights and daylight coming in from the window. I'll probably want to gel one of the tungsten lights with a gel that will bring it up to daylight, which would be a CTB filter. You could also use a CTO filter if you wanted, which would be an orange filter over the LED lights or fluorescent lights to make them tungsten color if you wanted. That might be a little too technical or too complicated, so if it's over your head, don't worry about it. Just make sure that if you're going to be using daylight, then use your fluorescents or LEDs because they're balanced for 5600 Kelvin. So I've got my LED here, and I'm just going to plug it in and turn it on. Okay, and I probably need to raise it up a little bit. And I'm probably going to need it more intense than that because it's pretty bright out coming through the window. So let's see how that does. Let's see if that's pretty good. That's pretty good. I'm fairly evenly lit on both sides of my face. The only thing that I don't like about this shot is I have this cord with this Velcro running through, and that doesn't look very attractive. So I'm just going to move that off the table. And I'm okay having my computer here, but of course if I didn't want that, I could, well, easily place this somewhere else out of the shot, say over here on my desk or behind the camera if I need it. Once I get my shot set and I can see that this looks really good, then I can pretty much stick with this and move my computer elsewhere if I need this space to be able to work in. In this case, I'm okay with my computer being here. I don't need to get rid of it. It actually serves the purpose of what I'm talking about in this video. So I'm going to leave it in the shot. Now, in order to get started, all I need to do is press record, and I can choose my format. In this case, I'm going to go with large because I want the highest quality possible. But even if I chose small, it would still be HD. It would just be a compressed file, which, depending on how you're going to use it, could be suitable for you. In this case, I'm going to use large though. And it gives me a countdown clock so I know when I'm on, and now I'm on. Now I can talk directly to the camera and be engaged and talk to it as if it's a person and all of that fun stuff. And when I'm done recording, I just press that, decide where I want to save it, and it's done. If I do record this and choose small, it's nice because after I'm done recording, it will compress it and place it here in the app. And if I click on it, you'll see it opens up a separate window. And I have the option of emailing this, putting it on Facebook, on Twitter, on YouTube. And this just gives me a few more options. Because this is a compressed file, it's already ready to upload to the internet. Another app that I can utilize is this Logitech camera settings app. What this will allow me to do is focus the shot. Now right now it's set to autofocus, and as we talked about, that's not always a good option because it's going to cause the camera to constantly shift focus if I'm moving around a lot in the shot. So instead of having autofocus, I'm going to uncheck that, and I can focus the shot just by taking a look. And what I'll do is I'll zoom in some, and it looks like that's all I can zoom in. Oops. And I'll go more on my face, and I can get a really good focus just by using these tools. Now, in terms of using the zoom on a webcam, it's important to keep in mind that it's not actually a zoom lens. So you're not getting an optical zoom. In other words, the lens is not zooming in to the frame. What it's actually doing is cropping the frame. So you'll see this says 5.0 times. That's actually cropped 5 times. So the quality, every time you crop or use this zoom tool, the quality of the video is actually going to be somewhat diminished because, again, it's not actually a zoom lens where you're zooming in, it's just cropping the frame to get in tighter. So I want to be careful using this and not use it too much. If I need to use maybe one level, that's okay. But again, while these controls are handy, I can really position the camera where I want it and get the kind of framing that I need. Another thing to look at is your white balance. Just as we talked about in using your mobile device, using a white balance is always something that is often overlooked, but always necessary. Now in this case, it's set to auto white balance. I could uncheck that and you'll notice that the color of the video changes to a more bluish tint. That's because this is set for incandescent or tungsten light, and that's why I'm getting that bluish color. So by adjusting that, I can get a more balanced color. But the best way to check is by taking a sheet of white paper, holding it up in front of the camera, and either checking the auto white balance for it to adjust to that white piece of paper, and in this case it did, and everything looks pretty natural. This paper looks actual white. Or you can manually adjust it while holding up the sheet of paper to get the true white color. You don't need to worry so much about the brightness, contrast, color intensity because most of those settings are going to be fine. So I actually like this tighter frame a bit because, well, it focuses a little bit more on me. So I'm going to keep it at 2 times zoomed in, and I'm going to move the camera shot over this direction just so I'm a little more centered in the frame, and I can adjust myself as well to make sure that I'm centered. If I didn't want this halfway in the shot, I could just close it down. Now that I have my camera settings the way I want them, I can talk into the camera and not have anything else in the frame that could potentially be distracting. Now, let's take a look at another possible way I could transform this room if I wanted to change the look and feel of it. For example, this bookcase is really nice, but it also could potentially be distracting to my viewers because, well, while there are interesting books on it, it's very close to me. It's not separated as much as I'd like it to be. So instead, it might be better if I didn't have so much behind me on a bookshelf and instead had a more neutral, minimal background. Let's take a look at how I could do that. For this example, I wanted to transform the background to give you another option if you're shooting in a confined area. And in this case, having the bookshelf behind me as my background is nice, but it's also really close to me, and so all of the book titles are going to be just as much in focus as I am. Because there's no separation between me and the background, what I don't want to have start happening is people watching my video to start looking at the titles of the books on the shelf or checking out the accoutrements that are sitting there. So to provide a more stark, neutral background, I've chosen the collapsible black screen that I showed you as a backdrop. In this case, it's perfect because I don't need to hang it from anything. I just propped it up against the bookshelf. And in this case, I'm using the black side because I don't have room for a lot of additional lighting to light a background. Plus, it's so close to me that the black is really going to be easier to use. Of course, if I had other colors, I could choose from those. Now, I am still going to have to make some adjustments in my shot because, as you can see, I had a much wider shot set up. And I could reposition my webcam if I wanted, but in this case, I can just crop it once, and now I pretty much have a good shot. I just need to adjust this a little bit and move this lamp out of the frame, and I'll focus my camera properly so that I am in focus. Now I'm also a little bit blown out, and I could change perhaps the brightness of the screen, but what's easier to do than to deal fooling with that is to just close this curtain, because I have the option of doing that. Doing that is, well, it's going to bring a little bit less intensity from the light through the window. And the other thing I can do is either, well, I'll start by turning this off and see how this looks, but I could also just lower that. Now, right now, all I have lighting me is fill light. I have a light from this window over here and light from this window over here. So you see that I'm getting some noise in the background, that grain. And the only way to get rid of that is to add more light. So I am going to turn back on my LED light here, but I don't want to light the background. So I'm going to move it closer to me in this case, and I'll turn the brightness down a bit. Again, it's an adjustable light, so that helps. And we'll see that's still very bright, so I want to just turn it down, maybe even to the lowest that it goes. And that's better, because now I'm more naturally lit. I have a key light lighting me, and then fill light making up the rest. So this is a potential shot with the black background. And again, I can close my computer screen and talk on the webcam if I don't want that in the shot. So that's another option of getting a different look out of using the confined area that we're in. One other option that I have when it comes to using my webcam in this kind of setting, if I'm going to have the black background, is that I can actually change the position of the webcam. So rather than cropping the shot, I think I will just compact my tripod a bit, and this is a good tripod because it folds up very small. So now I could even set this here on the table, and let's see what kind of shot that gives me. Okay, so now the camera is much closer, and I need to position it a little bit differently so that I get the look that I want. And it's a little uneven here, so let me fix what's going on with that. Oh, there's the problem. All right, and now I can get a little bit closer, so the quality of the video is going to be better. Now, you'll notice that I am very close to the screen, which I mentioned was not a good idea to put yourself right up against the background. But in this case, in this room, well, I don't have a choice. I guess my only other option would be to move my table out 2 or 3 feet if I can, since my webcam is now sitting on my tabletop and not in front of it. I could potentially push the table out so that I'm separated a little bit more from my background. And in this case, I still just need to bring it in a little bit. But what this would allow me to do is not have to crop the frame. So I'll get a better quality video by not zooming in or using the zoom in tool in the camera settings. And with that, I could just stand this up a little bit. Just move it a little bit more that way. Now I have a pretty decent shot. Now I am right up against the background, but and I might lower this just a smidge so that it's more at eye level and not above eye level. But you'll see all these little adjustments are just things that you kind of have to do. And this gives me a different look. You'll notice I have a slight shadow that I'm casting against the background, and well, that's caused because the window letting in natural light is spilling onto the background. This is something you'll want to be careful of if you're going to go this route, and in this case I'll probably need to close both shades lose the natural light on this side, and then just use my key light on me because I'm so close to the background. The other option, and probably the better option now that I have my webcam set on the table, would be to move this table a little bit forward, maybe 2 or 3 feet if possible, just to separate myself slightly from the background. But you can see that by moving the webcam closer, I've got a tighter shot the same way that I had without using that zoom feature, which actually in turn crops the shot and loses some of the quality that you'd get. So this is a better quality shot, bringing the webcam a little bit closer, and you'll also notice that I've transformed the look of the video by adding a more neutral, black, solid background as opposed to having the busy bookshelf behind me. So you'll notice that I've changed the setting of the room yet again. It's a little darker in here. I've closed the curtains to cut off the natural light because in this case too much was spilling against the black, and because it's so close to me I just need a darker room. So in this case, if I sit down here again, you'll notice that the shot is a little bit nicer. You don't see as much of a shadow that I'm casting on the background because no light is coming in through the window and spilling. What I have is just one of my LED panels pointed at me on one side, and then I'm using the white bounce reflector to bounce the light that's coming from this side onto this side of my face. So my face is evenly lit, and while I don't really have a shoulder light separating me from the background, in this case, under these conditions, this looks pretty good, and simply by closing my computer frame, I lose that glare in my glasses, and I can talk to you normally and begin my video. So this is another option, and it just shows you how sometimes you need to be able to control the environment a little bit more, and that's another reason why I like shooting indoors, because I have more options. If I wanted a brighter, more naturally lit room, well, I have the option of doing that with the window, or if I needed to create a darker setting with a more neutral, flat background, then I can also adjust accordingly.